Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another video here in the PokerStaples channel, and we're releasing episode 3 of my weekly podcast. So I think it's a really good one. We go over a pretty awesome live hand in this. We talk to Ryan Schoonbaert, cover some of the gossip going on in the poker world, and the night that we put this together was actually just when the story was breaking about some of the alleged cheating at Stone's Gambling Hall. So sort of a first look at that. There was not as much information as there is now available. So really interesting podcast. Would love if you check it out and pass any feedback you have down below in the comments. Without further ado, enjoy. Hello everyone, and welcome to the weekly Poker Showdown brought to you by Party Poker. I am your host, Jamie Staples, and we have a huge show for you this week. It is insane. We got some things to talk about. We're going to jump into it, but first, I just wanted to pass along a thanks. The show is new. This is the 3rd episode, so I've been getting a lot of feedback from all of you as to where I can improve and things you like. That's been really helpful, and I appreciate all of you supporting the show in its early steps here. I think we've got a good thing going on, so I appreciate it very much. Let's get into what we're going to talk about today. So let's get right into the global online poker results, and we need to start this week talking about the conclusion of W-Coup, which touched on last week. $5,200 main event buy-in. We got down to a final table of 9. Everyone was guaranteed $111,000 for making the final 9, with the champion taking home $1.66 million. Now, Twitch streamer Finton Hand, Easy with Aces on Twitch, fell a little bit short of that final table, with still a very good run though. And him, as well as Tonka P on Twitch, or Parker Talbot, ended up co-casting that final table, which was really cool. Great stream, guys. The winner ended up being Big Blind Bets from the UK, who did win that $1.6 million and the title. So, it's an amazing event. Even though I'm working with Party Poker, hats off to PokerStars on the W-Coup main event. Very entertaining tournament to watch, and a huge congrats to Big Blind Bets on the win, the $1.6 million. That's got to feel good. Okay, let's continue on with some of the other results. I'll move to the Sunday wrap-up. So the $2,100 Gladiator on Party Poker this weekend saw the player Don't Do It win the event for $51,000. I'm pretty sure I put in more than $2,100 in satellites trying to get into the event, which I failed at getting into. So a bit of a fail from me, but hopefully I can get in there and challenge Don't Do It next Sunday. The $320 version had a nice 854 entrants this week. The winner was Nagraniek, who won $39,000 for their effort. Congratulations. So Monster Series is also beginning this week. The buy-ins are from $27 all the way down to 11 cents. That's right. It is a series for the everyday poker player. You don't have to have a massive bankroll to participate in this one. So I think it's going to be pretty fun and useful for a lot of you watching. I would be remiss if I didn't shout out my own fiance today. I'm actually recording this very early in the morning, and the reason is she ran very deep in a $22 Monster Series. She ended up getting 3rd place for $2,500, and I was sitting on the couch for about 3 or 4 hours watching her deep run. I have to say, it is very hard to watch someone you care about lead on so many flops. it hurts, but it seemed to just keep working, so maybe I'm learning something. All jokes aside, massive congrats, Rebecca, and keep it up. Okay, so that's going to be it for the poker results this week. I want to wish you all the best of luck in Monster Series or whatever it is you're playing this week. And hopefully I'm going to find myself on this leaderboard when we do this next week. All right, good luck. For this week's strategy section, I wanted to draw your attention to internal talk. Now, this is something that I can do very easily because I stream on Twitch, so everything I'm thinking, I say out loud. So it's easy for me to do this, but it's sort of a thought experiment, and I picked out something that I was doing wrong this week, and maybe this will be useful to you. So we've all found ourselves in the spot. Let's say we're 3 hours into a tournament. There's 35 left. We have ace-4 in the big blind, and we have 13 big blinds, right? And the small blind moves all in. We found ourselves in this spot. And often what I will say on my stream is, we have to call here. Now, why is that? That doesn't make very much sense. What do you mean we have to call? Now, of course, we should call, right? This is going to be a profitable play in the long run. But why do I phrase it, we have to call? I think saying we have to sort of exposes a little bit of pessimism, a little bit of not understanding the variance associated with poker. Because, of course, we're calling expecting this to be a profitable thing in the long run. Every move we're making in poker is either something we expect to make us money in the long run, or it's zero EV, which means it's neutral, which is folding, right? So when we are making a decision to make a call all in for our life, it's really we get to, right? We get to call here because this is going to make us money. It doesn't make any sense we have to make money in this spot, right? You would never say, oh, we have to get our paycheck. Like, we get to get our paycheck. So that to me exposes something in my mind of like, you need to have a slightly more positive outlook on the variance you're going to place and maybe a more realistic expectation of what poker is like, that you found a profitable spot and you don't feel great about it, right? So two sort of takeaway points for those of you at home from my mistake that I've learned. Take some time to talk out your poker decisions. I'm not saying you have to stream, although I would encourage you to because I think it really helps. But even just like talk through your decisions out loud at home. I know it's a little nerve-wracking if there's people around. Like, I remember thinking I was crazy when I first started doing this 8 years ago, but it really helps because you identify these moments where, okay, so I explained why I did this play, but that wasn't very clear. It was hard to think of that, and I didn't phrase it very well. Maybe you don't quite understand well enough, and it might be a point like, okay, I need to hone in on that to make sure I really know why I'm doing what I'm doing there. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is turn those have-tos into get-tos. There should be no reason for I have to call. It should be I get to call. And I think that will benefit me, and I think it'll benefit you as well. So hopefully those tips help, and best of luck on the felt. Hello, everyone. Today I have Ryan Schoonbaert joining me. This is a member of Party Poker Team Online, a guy I met, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, actually at a casino in Calgary, Alberta, which I was living at the time. So funny that we've sort of become colleagues several years down the road. Ryan, thanks for coming on the podcast. How you doing today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers, man. So yeah, as I mentioned, when I first met you, I was playing $1, $2 cash games, and this was at Stampede Casino in Calgary. And I thought I was a big boss. So what was that?
Before it became Cowboys in the olden days?
It might have been Cowboys at that point. I don't know. I forget. But either way, I was playing 1-2. I thought I was a big boss. I'd roll into the casino on the weekends with my, $3K in my pocket, like ready to grind. And I see you, Ryan, and you're always on the 2-5 game. Okay?
Yeah.
So my impression of you is this guy is an absolute beast. He's young. He's got stacks of thousands in front of him every time I see him. Who is this guy? I was intimidated of you for like years, Ryan.
Yeah, it's we've got an early start in the live poker, playing all the cash games in that. I was very fortunate to run well when I first started playing poker.
How did that start? Yeah, like get into it. How did you get into poker? Like, where did you find it? How did you find yourself sitting at that 2-5 cash game?
Basically always had a bit of an interest in it. Grew up kind of playing with family and friends and that.
Right.
Grew up in a small town, so we didn't have much else to do, so we played a lot of cards, a lot of games, and poker was always one of those. And just kind of always enjoyed it growing up. When I turned 18, decided to go and dabble in a little bit of live cash games and try them out at Cowboys. And just ended up running really, really well early on. So of course, fresh, like 18-year-old Ryan is going to the casino. I think I ended up winning in total over a couple months about $10,000 at 1-2.
Right.
And then obviously when you're 18 and just getting into poker, you think
that's a retirement fund at 18.
Yeah, you're like, I can never lose. Like, this is the
never working again. Yeah.
Exactly. Obviously I had that mindset a little bit, and then was very quickly humbled after that, and went on a bit of a downswing. But just having won a lot and then kind of lost it really motivated me to want to study and improve, and just kind of like seeing how easy it could be and how much fun it was. It really motivated me to want to keep grinding, getting better, studying, and all that.
Right. Okay. So you hop in, fresh 18, run up a 10K roll, you hit a downswing. Do you
Yeah.
do you immediately swing back up and get into the 2-5 games, or was that downswing including the 2-5 games, and that was kind of like the end of the live experiment?
No, I didn't jump in the 2-5 right away.
Okay.
Basically ended up going down, like down swinging pretty hard. Ended up just like getting a job because at the time I was working at a restaurant and then kind of quit that while I was playing poker and doing really well. But then shortly after, ended up getting my job back, and then that's kind of when I started to study and take things a bit slowly. So still losing for a decent amount of time, but basically I still remember I'd go to work, I'd work a long day. I had a couple friends that were interested in poker, and a lot of times I'd make some money from serving, like I'd get tips in that, and we'd go to the casino after and just like basically try and spin it up.
Right.
And yeah, so just kind of slowly started improving, getting better as I was losing. Was talking to some players that were better than me, getting some advice, putting in some time. And then slowly I kind of started to see myself winning more and more. And then just kind of came at a good time where Calgary's economy was really well. The 2-5 game was running a lot, and there was quite a few players that weren't amazing. There was a few good regs, but just a lot of people who were there to gamble. So then I started kind of dabbling in that a little bit and running well. So just kind of kept playing from then on in.
That's awesome, man. I never had the experience of being a server and then taking your tips and trying to spin it up. As a 9-year poker pro now, it seems like an amazing experience. Like that's gonna be so fun.
Like texting the friends and being like, all right, I'm off at 8 tonight. Like let's get some money together and let's go to the casino. And then we'd all drive down, spirits high, and then
yeah.
A lot of times we would end with the spirits not quite as high, but those few times you had the good sessions and ran up a huge roll or a big session, it was a lot of fun.
And it just feels different at that point in your poker life as well, you know? Like when you have a winning session early in your poker life, there's not quite a feeling like it, is there? It's just it's
like
amazing.
Early on you're not as desensitized to it. The longer you play poker, the more you kind of become desensitized to the wins and the losses. So I still remember always going, like the wins, you would just be on an ultimate high. And then the times where you'd lose, it was just like the opposite, where you'd be more affected by it. But overall, it was a lot of fun.
For sure. Something I have to say. So when I would see you at that casino, I always thought you had the best table presence. Because my impression was when you were sitting there that you had zero nerves and that you'd been there forever and you were ready to put all your chips in at any moment. Like you gave me that sense when I was playing with you. So I don't know if you developed that over time, or is that how you were feeling?
Like somewhat developed over time. Like the first little bit I was nervous, but just kind of playing in that. And I don't know, I've always been a little bit desensitized to it, where the wins and losses don't really affect me as much. And in the moment I can kind of separate myself. So if I was confident in a play, I would make it. And so I wouldn't mind bluffing off a stack if I had to, stuff like that. I was definitely playing overly aggressive at times. Like as I've kind of started to learn more over the years, I was a little wild back in the day for sure. But I always tracked my results, had some very solid results in the poker. And so it was working. There was a lot of people that, because it was such deep stack poker, I'd play a lot of hands and I was comfortable post flop either bluffing them off of hands or when I actually make something getting paid. So I definitely had a loose image, but it paid off a lot of times. So
yeah, I mean, it's very rare for people to be too aggressive in live poker. Like they can be too aggressive in that they just like punt off their stack sometimes, but like actually good aggressive where they're sort of leveraging properly and stuff is very rare. So
it was always a tough balance between the full punts and just the calculated ones. But you know, as time went on, we slowly got a little better.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to even describe like what is a punt and what is a good bluff, like because they look very similar.
And in the moment, like you don't get as many hands live. Like it's very like a lot of times you make it through and you're like, oh man, that was the best bluff ever, and then like next time you get snapped off, and it could be a very similar situation, but just because you get called, you're like, oh man, what a punt! Like why'd I do that? So
Yeah.
it was also oriented whether it's a punt or the best bluff you've ever made.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned off the start of our chat here, you are now a member of Party Poker Team Online. So obviously your focus is not the 2-5 games at Cowboys Casino anymore. So yeah, what was the transition from playing those live games to hopping online and starting up on Twitch?
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting transition. I honestly had never really been around Twitch that much. Like I knew that I was friends with you and Kevin, obviously, so I knew that you guys were streaming, and I kind of knew of Twitch, but I never really spent any time on there. I was just fully focused on my live poker, and my days would consist of like waking up, doing a few things, going to the casino, coming back. So I really didn't even know what Twitch was. But about 2 years ago now, Kevin and I were at the bar just like having some drinks, and he was feeling a little bit burnt out with poker at the moment at that time. And we were spitballing ideas of like how to get motivated and stuff like that. And somehow it came up with the idea that we were going to do a challenge where we tried to keep his stream going 24 hours a day for, well, it started out that we were going to try and do it for 20 days, and then we kind of honed back to 10 days.
Right. Yeah.
And then, ended up doing that challenge. We set up the stream. We each took about 12-hour shifts and just kind of kept it going for 24 hours a day. We only ended up lasting 5 days before it was time to throw in the towel.
That's impressive, though. That's a long 5.
Yeah, it was tough too because I had never streamed before. I had never like done anything like that. I had barely played online poker, never been in front of a camera streaming and trying to like talk and entertain. And it was tough to get thrown in. And then I was streaming like 12 to 14-hour days sometimes if Kevin was a little tired. So to just be thrown into that for 5 days straight, it was a very interesting experience, but just kind of fell in love with Twitch from that point forward. I think it helped having like access to Kevin's big channel right away, where this chat was active. I was having a lot of fun. Like I met a lot of cool people in those 5 days.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it was just.
This is such a Kevin Martin story, by the way. Like these things only happen when you are around Kevin.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember his stream where he invited the canvassers in from outside. Billy, do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the people that were going door to door and had them on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some legendary streams. I remember when we first started sort of hanging out, like you would come over. I do remember you taking a few shots on Kevin's stream at various points before you started up yourself.
I remember in his old basement before you guys got the stream house going.
Yes.
He had the tilt meter, the bad beat bed, and
the shave, right? He had the beard until he won a tournament.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he wouldn't shave and he'd have the counter of like days since his last win. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that was the start of Drunk Fridays.
That was a mess. I remember one stream where there was 4 times that someone got sick in a stream. I was just like, well, this is a little out of control. But
well, it was bad. We didn't really know. It was like, oh, every time you get a shot, and every time you like flop a straight or like flop 2 pair, you finish your beer, stuff like that. Yeah. And then when he's multi-tabling, it would be like an hour or 2 in, and we'd just be done a big bottle of alcohol and a bunch of beer, and yeah, it got messy for sure. Yeah. So those didn't last too long until they went into retirement, but there was maybe 2 or 3 of them that existed. Those
are the early days before it got like serious, and we got sponsorships and like started taking our job more seriously. It was like it was the Wild West. Yeah, that was fun. So how are you liking it on Twitch now that you have your own channel? You're streaming. You're a part of our team here, Team Online. So how are you feeling it out on Twitch, and what do you think is the future of your channel? Like, where are you going with it?
It's good. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Again, fell in love ever since then, and I just kind of enjoy it more than live poker. When I play live poker, it's kind of lonely, where you go in, the session is like you're kind of against everyone that you're sitting with. It's competitive, and it's not quite as nice of an environment. Mm-hmm. Whereas on Twitch, you don't really get to see the people you're playing with, and the people that you're interacting with are just those who are in your chat. And it's usually supportive. There's like some really good people that you get to meet through it. So I love the aspect of of just like meeting all the people and kind of building a community where other people can come and just like hang out, talk about hands, stuff like that, if they don't know a lot of people who play. So yeah, in terms of the future, just going to keep trying to improve in that. I'm kind of at the smaller to mid-stake tournaments right now. Have been trying out some different things, been playing a little bit of PLO cash, been playing some MTTs, just kind of feeling out where I have the most fun. But essentially I just want to keep studying, keep getting a lot better, and continue to move up the stakes and build a tight-knit community.
Yeah. Great, man. That sounds good. So you touched on Omaha Cash a little bit there. I know we were talking, you playing a bit of Fast Forward. You just got finished a Monster Series session, I'm pretty sure. And deep running something, right? You had a good result today?
I had a few deep runs, yeah. I've got a lot of top 30, 20, like top 20, top 30 finishes when there's like a couple thousand people in there, but still trying to get those trophies and final tables under my belt for the Monster Series. But,
yeah. It's early days. We're recording this on Monday night, so we got time.
Yeah, exactly. Day 2, so we still have the full week to get some more.
Yeah. So mixed games, that's something that you've played quite a bit over the last like year and a half or so, and people kind of know your channel through that. Obviously, you joined up with us on Party Poker, so the mixed games we have access to are Omaha and Omaha High-Low. You know, we don't have Raz yet or stud games or anything like that, or we do have stud, don't we? But no tournaments.
Yeah, no tournaments.
Yeah, right. So how is it, you know, obviously playing those mixed games and like you know, is your audience sort of taking to playing the Omaha games on Party and are you enjoying that? Like, do you think that's your future in streaming, or do you think you're gonna still stick with some no limit stuff?
Stick with a little bit of no limit. I find if I play, I get a little burnt out when I can only play no limit. Like I enjoy the game. It's a lot of fun. But just like playing no limit tournaments day after day, I like a little bit of variety where I get to play a little PLO here, a little 08, and a little Hold'em. It just it keeps everything fresh for me. And that's why I like adding in the odd PLO cash session as well, because that's a little bit different where you're just like playing Fast Forward and getting through hands and seeing a bunch of PLO cash. Basically, I just like a little bit of variety to keep it fresh and not be the same thing kind of day after day.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's cool, man. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on. I wanted to touch on one more thing. We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but we're both good friends of Kevin Martin, who, of course, about 2 weeks ago decided to kind of hang up his hat in the professional streaming side of things. Like, I did see him playing some tournaments this past weekend on Party, so he's still playing. But
yeah, he's jumping in the odd tournament here and there.
But I just wanted to sort of reach out to you and say, you know, like, what is your favorite Kevin Martin story? Because he didn't get a proper send-off on the podcast, and I think he's a good friend of both of ours, big influences in our life. So I wanted a Kevin Martin story. Do you have anything that stands out, poker-wise anyways?
Yeah, Kevin Martin story. Well, I met Kevin originally at Grey Eagle. Him and I used to play a ton of 1-2 no limit at the Grey Eagle. And
that's a casino in Calgary, by the way.
Yeah.
Deep stacks, good games.
Yeah, very deep stack. You had like 250 big blind max buy, and it just played really deep because there was button straddles and people were just going crazy. And I remember him and I playing a few pots. Our other friend Abdel and I used to make fun of him a lot because he was just known for overplaying jacks when he was in the early stages. So we always used to call him pocket jacks, and there were some pots where he would just get in infinite amounts of big blinds and with pocket jacks. And one of the funnier stories. I remember one pot specifically where we were pretty shorthanded and ended up getting in like 1,000, like at 1-2 ended up getting in like 1,000 pre-flop or something in a straddled game with pocket jacks, and there was just a lot of pots, so that was
just 1,000 big blind pot. It's pretty fun. It's funny you say that, actually. My friend Joel and I and my other friend Mike, when we met him in Lethbridge Casino, we knew him as Micro, because at that time, when we asked him about him, he said, "Oh yeah, I play the micro stakes online." Like, yeah, I just play a bunch of 1 cent, 2 cent tables. So, to this day in my phone, he's Micro Poker. It wasn't good when girls saw that name in my phone. Micro, who's that? But
so why is Micro taking?
no, that's cool. Well, anyways, Ryan, it was. I'm glad that we're sort of intertwined. Who would have thought 5 or 6 years ago when we were playing the small stakes cash games, we would be here, streaming on Party Poker's team. So really cool to be part of this project with you, dude. Thanks for coming on the podcast and sharing a bit of your story for people out there that might not know, because, I think you're a newer face in the scene. Not a lot of people know about your stream that may know about mine. So I'm happy that I had the chance to sort of intro you to some people.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it very much. Thank you so much for having me on.
Great, man. All right. Talk to you soon, Ryan. Bye-bye.
Right, thanks. Yeah. Bye.
Let's talk about some of the poker gossip this week. And wow, what a week it's been. It's been absolutely insane. The first story I'm going to cover today is actually one that has been developing overnight tonight, and I've been reading about it and sort of digging into it. It's a very new story, so I'm not going to have all the information for you, but let's just talk about sort of what's happening. So there's a thread on the 2+2 poker forums, as well as Reddit Poker, as well as all over Twitter, talking about very suspicious behavior on some of the Stones poker live streams. Mike Postel is one of the players that is being accused of perhaps doing something that isn't allowed, or cheating, I guess, if we're going to put it on Front Street. Again, these are just allegations at this point. So my first impression when I heard this was, this is someone, whining about running bad. Because as a streamer, I get it all the time of people blaming their bad luck or their bad play on the site or on other players or on groups of people. So I was thinking it was one of those. But then when I started watching some of the hands in question, when I started reading some of the thread, it became a little bit more suspicious and clear, like, okay, maybe something's going on here. This is a little bit weird. Trolling through Twitter as well, I've seen Scott Seaver, Chris Kruk, Apotheosis, Hilera Bob, Vulgaris. I can never say your name correctly. I'm really sorry. Someone please help me. How do I say that? Hilera Bob? Man, it's tough. I'm sorry. So these players sort of came out and saying that they think this person is cheating. There doesn't appear to be a single session on Stones Live where the guy has lost, and there's rough estimates that he's winning at 220 big blinds per 100 hands. So these are all allegations at this point. Some of the hands you can see out there on Twitter that people are talking about, very kind of suspicious looking hands, but I think it's important to note this guy is innocent until proven guilty. I don't want to start a witch hunt here or anything, but are we witnessing one of the greatest poker players of all time? Are we witnessing one of the greatest streaks of luck of all time? Or is this player cheating? We don't know. Clearly, someone's going to get to the bottom of it, and we're going to have to follow up next week as to what happens with this story. This week in Poker Gossip, we heard some bad news for the industry. Microgaming Poker Network is closing its virtual doors in 2020. John Coleman, the CEO of Microgaming, had the following to say: "The network model no longer fits our strategic vision for poker, and this is the right time to announce the closure as we focus on redistributing key resources and personnel across the business, while the network entertainment experiences leading the way with world-class gaming content. Ultimately, this move will help the business to achieve the vision as we follow a new strategic direction for the vertical, details which will be revealed in due course." So if you have accounts on Microgaming, important to note that they are closing up in 2020. So empty those balances if you have any money hanging in there. It's sad to see another operator leave the business. I work with Party Poker, so again, I'm hoping for Party Poker's success, but I recognize competition is really good, right? As well as like a thriving industry with a lot of people competing. So it's sad to see that, but there is some open-ended language here in this comment. Quote, "While the network is closing, this is not the end for poker at microgaming, end quote. So what does that mean? Is this a new product, or is it a single skin, or is it a different game entirely that the CEO is calling poker but isn't going to really be poker? Like, no one really knows. Time will tell. So that's where we're going to leave this story, and we'll follow up when we have more news. And the last story I have for you today, a little bit of poker gossip, is I don't know what to think about this. This is weird. An $88 million all-in Prague tournament has been announced. What? 88 million? What? Too good to be true? I don't know. We're going to find out. Let's think about it a little bit. Let's talk about it. So no one in the industry seems to know very much about this tournament. The event is scheduled to run October 8th to 13th. There's an informational video that came out sort of announcing some of the details. What's also very interesting is that this is not proposed to be hosted at the King's Casino in the Czech Republic, which is, what you first think of when you think of Czech poker is the King's Casino, right? And Leon. But this doesn't appear to be in collaboration with him at all. So it's a 50,000 euro entry, building an 88 million euro prize pool with satellites from as little as 8 euro. Where those satellites are is not clear yet. The 88 million euro prize pool also does not have the word guarantee attached to it. So is that something that is for sure going to happen, or this is what we'd like to happen? Also, with the venue, there's a video presenting the tournament with like a 3D model of the venue of what it'll look like inside and sort of what it looks like outside. But if you go on Google Street View, it showcases something very different of a venue that is still under construction and not nearly sort of where it needs to be to host such a huge tournament. So, it is still a year out. I obviously would love for this to be a thing, but I have more questions after looking into it than what I started with. So I hope it happens. I'm not going to wire any money yet. I'm looking for more information to come out about this and hopefully more support in the industry. If it's actually going to be a thing, I expect there to be satellites on all the major sites and a clear sort of information funnel into how I can play this event. So $88 million guaranteed poker tournaments. Apparently, I'm going to hold off for a second. Hero of the Week. So our first ever Hero of the Week was Jamie Ho at MicMacLife on Twitter. So he was representing the podcast this week in the $320 Gladiator. I'm happy to say he did snag a bounty for $79, but unfortunately fell short of the cash, finishing the event in, where was it? 154th. So Jamie Ho, congratulations on the run. I know this was like a bigger tournament than you normally play, so awesome at least to get a bounty. Hopefully that helps with the bankroll, and thanks for being the first ever Poker Hero of the Week. Can I get some claps, some virtual claps out there for Jamie? So now we have a new winner that's going to represent us on this Sunday. The winner of last week's guess was Ivan Black, who goes by at Kot Prostoy on Twitter, KOTPROSTOY. Their guess was 1,899 entrants. This was into the $55 Gladiator. Now, no one was even close. The entrants were 2,401, but this was the closest guess. So you are going to get that $320 Gladiator ticket for this Sunday. You are our Hero of the Week. If you guys are listening to this, make sure you root them on if you have the Party Poker client open. And I hope you go all the way, man, and you get second place because I want to win it myself. I'm not going to lie. I hope you get second. But I believe in you. You can do it. So for this week's competition, for this week's Hero of the Week, we're going to do something a little bit different than we've done for the first 2 weeks. It's not really a skill testing question. Party Poker Pro John Duffy tweeted out this photo. I don't know about all of you, but I'm very inspired seeing this sort of bath setup that we got going on here. So we thought about using the hashtag JSBathTime. Hashtag JSBathTime. Send along your creative pictures for the most unusual places you play poker. Now, I want to make a note here. Please don't risk your personal health and or electrocution. Like Mr. Duffy here. Okay, stay safe out there. We're going to select a winner next week. Remember to tweet your entry with the hashtag JSBathTime. can honestly say I've never played poker in the bath before. That's a first for me. I've never seen that, but there you go. This week for live poker results, well, we don't really have much. Apparently not a lot of tournaments going on in the poker world this week. Apologies if I missed any results, but I can preview a little bit of what's happening, and there's a really great event I want to touch on that is happening right away here, and that is the Devilfish Cup. So Party Poker Live and WPT are hosting this Devilfish Cup at Dusk Till Dawn Casino in honor of Party Poker's friend Dave Elliott. So it's a $1 million guaranteed tournament with a $5,000 buy-in from September 30th until October 2nd. And the rake from the event is going to be split between Dave Elliott's daughter, Lucy, and the Macmillan Cancer Charity. So going to a really good cause and a great event. I actually saw some tweets and some videos from this today, and it seemed like such a great sort of camaraderie. Something that I've come to learn about the UK, of this like this togetherness. You could really feel it there as people came to sort of pay respects and play a poker tournament for a good cause. So I think pretty awesome of the WPT and Dusk Till Dawn to sort of pull this together and put this on. So that's going on this week, as well as there is the WPT at Dusk Till Dawn. This is only one of the many events that are going on this week. So the main event is happening as of right now. I played the online day 1, day 2, which unfortunately are closed for this, but it's going on from October 1st until October 6th, which is the final day. There's all sorts of events as well, like a WPT Deep Stack, 500,000 guaranteed with a $1,500 buy-in. That's going on from October 4th until October 7th. So lots going on at Dusk Till Dawn Casino in Nottingham. If you're in this part of the world, might be worth checking out. And finally, we're going to get to the live hand review, which I got a lot of feedback that this is most people's favorite segment, which is exciting for me because I love looking at these hands and sort of breaking them down and thinking about them. So happy to do more live hand reviews, and we have a great one today with the legend Mike Sexton. So let's jump into it and sort of catch up on where we're at in the hand. Now we're actually going to start up on the flop. We see Gaston bet on the dealer button, and Mike Sexton raise in the small blind. So we have to assume pre-flop. Eric went for the raise. Gaston calls. Mike Sexton calls. And we go to a flop. Check, bet, raise. And we pick up Eric folding their 9-7. And action is back on Gaston. Now, pretty interesting spot here with Gaston. If you play through some of his decision on the flop, I'm going to jump a little bit into live reads here, and this is a polarizing topic. Some people think they're really important. Some people think they're really not important. But the 1-2 grinder in me has a little bit of alarm bells going off. And the main thing is the change in demeanor. You see Gaston sort of slump down, like sitting there, right? And then changes into a slightly more up and like aggressive and bigger posture. And I don't necessarily think we can learn too much from the slump or the aggressive posture because they could either be trying to portray one side or the other, but the change in demeanor is interesting. If you have a set, you're not often going to be changing demeanor. If you have a very clear fold that you were just bluffing, like a Jack 8 offsuit, for example, you're not going to be changing your demeanor and going through that. So clearly there's some sort of thinking going on in the spot of like, and they're kind of changing their mind is what I can see. Now, of course, I can see the whole cards. So you guys can tell me I'm full of crap. I probably wouldn't pick that up if I couldn't see the whole cards, but it's easy to sort of make that correlation now that I can see them. Anyways, let's get back to some solid fundamental poker. So Gaston calls, and we see a turn. It's a really tough spot with sevens in the first place because you beat hands like diamond draws and perhaps some other bluffs like ace regs that might decide to bluff, or small pairs, or backdoor straight / flush draw hands like queen jack of clubs. But all the hands we just listed don't always raise. You know, you don't see Mike Sexton always raise with like ace 4 or always raise with all of his diamond draws or his queen jack of clubs. You know, sometimes he'll raise with those hands. And we have to remember we were three-handed just a second ago. So I don't think we're going to see Mike Sexton go crazy in this spot. So let's say we do call, and we would call if the hand ended here, but what happens on a turn? You know, what happens if the turn is any Broadway and we see Mike Sexton bet? well, we're going to have to fold. So it's one of those spots where if the hand ended on the flop, we would definitely call because we have a pretty good price and we have a lot of hands we can beat. But the turn in the river, it's going to be very difficult for us to play with our sevens because there's very few actually good cards for our hand or even our range. But we don't do that. Gaston has other plans, so let's see the turn. Boom, the ace of clubs, and what a great turn. Very interesting turn. This is a great bluff card for Gaston. Now, our pocket sevens, we just talked about, kind of nervous, kind of worried about a lot of cards. On this card, you know, if Mike Sexton bets again, of course you're folding. But we see Mike Sexton check, and all of a sudden, we have a decision to make. So Gaston has to decide, do we want to bluff with our pair of sevens, or are we just going to check and try and get all the way to showdown? Now, I think it's one of those weird spots where, like, should we bluff or not? I don't really know. We probably shouldn't be in a spot where we don't know if we should have to bluff or not. It's a difficult one. Gaston does decide to go for a small bet, which I think at this point is fair to say is a bluff, trying to get better hands to fold. So 150,000 into 450,000. This is definitely too small for Mike Sexton to fold. It's not a very good card for Mike Sexton, the ace of clubs, but you know, getting 3-1 odds with the king queen, you're going to call, and let's see a river. The river is the 10 of clubs, and this is a tough spot for Mike Sexton. Mike checks, Gaston bets 525 into 786,000. So a sizable bet, 75%, 80%. It does complete the backdoor flush draw and the backdoor straight draw, but it's tough to put Gaston on those hands, right? They bet on the flop, they call to raise, they bet small on the turn, they bet big on the river. Not too many of those hands are going to bet the flop and call or raise. So it really comes down to, does Gaston have a set of threes, a flop two pair, a set, ace king, ace 10, queen jack of diamonds, or do they have one of those various missed flush draws or something random like this, like a pair that decided to turn itself into a bluff? It's a really difficult spot, and Ludovic Geilich really breaks down some pretty good points. Mike Sexton having the queen of clubs blocker makes this hand not the best candidate from a game theory point of view to bluff catch. And the reason is, with the queen of diamonds in your hand, you're just going to make that small effect on, well, Gaston is slightly less likely to have the queen jack flush draw. Or, well, not queen jack flush draw because that's a straight, but queen 9 flush draw, the queen 8 flush draw, etc. So the queen of diamonds blocker is not a good one to have. If Mike Sexton is going to choose to bluff catch, he should do it without a diamond. But all that doesn't matter, though. We're talking about Mike Sexton. Let's roll the tape.
Well, obviously, the way the hand's been played, it's kind of been a bit of a nightmare. But I'm saying, like, Mike having the queen of diamonds, this is not a good call.
Right. You want your opponent to
I'm saying that if he calls, he's good, but it's not a good call theoretically.
But it's Gaston.
If Mike finds the call here, phenomenal. But theoretically, he should fold. Oh, look at this.
Mike's going for the live read.
He's went for a live read.
I mean, this is one of these things, you sit here, you know what they got, so you look at a smile like that, and I think it's a nervous smile.
That was a very nervous smile.
It did look that way, but we know it's nervous because he's got sevens.
Let's see if Mike can pick up on it. Hopefully he can and pick up this bluff. He's still humming and hawing. So here we go. Would he really have a nervous face there? If he's only got 300k behind, it's not as if he's nervous about him shoving all in. It's only another 300.
Right.
So it's one of those that's a massive
like
live tell.
Like you're making a medium value bet.
Yeah, that is a massive live tell. And do you know what? Do you know what this is years of? If he calls, this is absolute years of. This is insane. This is good. If he calls here, this is just years of like knowledge and like instinct. This is just knowledge and instinct of years of playing poker.
It doesn't feel right to him, does it? He's thinking, what hand does Gaston bet the flop four-way, call my check raise, then bet turn, bet river with on this run out?
The brain's a fascinating organ. He's looked over
But
and he's seen a nervous smile.
What does Gaston play
And
this way?
something's going through in his mind.
Ludo, what does he play this way, though? What are the hands? Just literally, what, a set of fives or a set of threes?
Ace-2 of diamonds, Ace-4 of diamonds, Ace-5 of diamonds. There's a lot of Ace-X of diamonds.
Yeah, Mike
And he
flicks
makes
in
the
the call.
call. What a
Sees
call.
a pair of sevens.
What a call. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe it's just looked over at him and he's seen that nervous smile and it's went into his brain and he's just acknowledged the fact that it's that instinctiveness and he's made the call.
Yeah,
The brain is a fascinating organ.
And as we can see at the end of this hand here, after a long deliberation, the man with more experience than Ludo and myself combined, ×2, weighed his options and made the call on the spot. I surely would get it wrong. So, well played, Mike Sexton. Great read on this situation in a very interesting hand. I'd love to hear what all of you think about this spot, so please leave your opinions on whether you think Mike can call or not. You know, I think Gaston played his hand in a very aggressive way and clearly tried to make a move, but do you think Mike Sexton should call the river? He was right, but was he right to do it? Tough to say. That's going to be it for this week on the Weekly Poker Showdown. Thanks to all of you for watching or listening to this, depending on where you're checking it out. Anything you'd like me to cover in the week ahead, you can, of course, get a hold of me at Jamie Staples on Twitter, at Jamie Staples on Instagram, or PokerStaples on Facebook or Instagram. My Twitch channel as well, PokerStaples on Twitch. So, yeah, I'm open. I love to talk poker, and I'd love to hear from you. So yeah, that's going to be it for this week. Thank you all so much for watching/listening. But until next time, we'll see you later. Thank you all so much for watching this podcast. If you guys like it, please make sure to hit the subscribe channel or subscribe to this channel. We're going to be releasing one of these every week. You can also find it on the Party Poker channels, by the way. This is sort of a double upload with them. So go check out their channel, subscribe. They're going to be producing more and more content over there. So thanks so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you later.